East Riddlesden Hall is a beautiful 17th century manor house which was at one point the main hub of the Riddlesden agricultural estate. Over its 1,400 year history, the estate and stately home has been modified and changed to reflect the personalities of the owners, industry, agriculture, war and later restoration following a lengthy stint as an empty building. While the property has had more phases than a moody teenager throughout its incredible history, the ghosts of East Riddlesden Hall were never able to move on, still frozen in time following their tragic ends. I'm Bleaki, and today I will tell you about the ghosts of East Riddlesden Hall, arguably Yorkshire's most haunted stately home, which includes a woman in white that met her end after an accident, a lady in grey who paid the ultimate punishment for being unfaithful during an unforgivable period, and a silent little boy still wandering the hall, looking for his mommy.
This old house once rang with laughter. This old house heard many shouts. Now he trembles in the darkness when the lightning walks about.
While there is evidence of a dwelling in the 7th century, East Riddlesden Hall was constructed in the 1640s by a renowned family of the time, the Murgatroyds. The family had built a substantial wealth with their milling and weaving businesses. The property was built as a symbol of power for the family, the jewel in the Murgatroyd's crown. The family didn't have the greatest reputation, however, and was said to have been involved in many nefarious acts against the local people to increase their own wealth. In fact, according to legend, the River Aire changed its direction to get away from the Murgatroyds. When a river changes its course just to get away from you, maybe it's time to make better decisions. Unfortunately for them, the family lost the house in the same century it was built, through intermarriages, and landed in the possession of the Starkey family. Now that's one hell of a wedding present, but I guess air fryers hadn't been invented yet. East Riddlesden Hall got an extension in the 1690s, and the exterior structure has changed very little since then. In fact, it still contains a lot of the items and features from that time, including dark oak floorboards that creak under every step, chunky yet ornate furniture, impressive but faded embroideries hanging from the ceiling, and fine panelled walls with nicks and scratches embedded in them, scars of its lengthy existence. As well as a stately home, the hall has also been a tenanted farm. As is the case in many of these relics of affluence, East Riddlesden Hall fell into disrepair due to a lack of funding to keep the house maintained. Fortunately, the Keithley brothers managed to save the building in 1934 when they brought the house to the attention of the National Trust, who brought it back to its former glory and is still running the property to this day. Most homes in the world have no doubt seen their fair share of tragedy within their walls, including yours and mine. Even if they are new builds, the land it sits on is likely to have witnessed some awful moments. Sadly, these tragic moments are believed by many to imprint the souls within physical matter or force the moments to be played as echoes, like the etchings of a vinyl disc. The most famous ghost still haunting East Riddlesden Hall is known as the Grey Lady. And no, the woman in black hasn't just washed her dress a few too many times. Legend tells of an unidentified lady who was married to the master of the house several centuries ago. After returning from a battle during the Civil War, no doubt eager to see his wife, put his feet up and treat himself to beans on toast, he was shocked to find his wife in bed with a merchant who had been passing through. While there's no record, I'm pretty certain she reacted with a, "Honey, you were not supposed to be home for another couple of days." I've seen enough TV. In a fit of rage, the master of the house grabbed hold of the man and threw him into another room. Some accounts say that he killed the unwelcome guest there and then, while other accounts say that he locked the man in the room until he died of starvation. After the lover was imprisoned, the lord went back to his wife in her little room, known as the Red Room at the time, and boarded up the door and window, leaving the lady to die an agonising death. Ever since, the ghost of the woman in grey has been seen in the room where she died, which was eventually named the Grey Lady Room due to the number of sightings within the area. When the house was a residence, people had claimed to see the apparition floating around the bed or being awoken by a woman weeping in a rocking chair. The chair has also been seen rocking on its own when there is no breeze or apparent reason for its movement. The woman in grey has also been seen by visitors through the window, pacing backwards and forward, or cupping her face in lament. A staff member once shared that they have had numerous reports over the years of people seeing the Grey Lady. In fact, it's often children who wouldn't necessarily know the story who have asked, "Who's the lady in the corner? Why is she crying?" And of course, no one else can see her. Others have seen the phantom woman pacing up and down the stairs, appearing to look around, almost desperately. Some believe that the spirit is forever looking for her lover, who also lost his life in the same horrific way at the hand of the master, or is simply confused within her deathly state and isn't aware she is no longer alive. Samantha Lawson, who is the visitor services manager for the site, shared her stories of the hauntings with the BBC and told of a volunteer who once told the other staff members how she saw the shadow of a woman moving around on a higher floor. She first thought that it was another member of staff, but later found out that no one else was up there. Other staff members were quite cynical at first until they saw the shadow themselves, sometimes out of the corner of their eye and other times in full view, before fading. The staff member also said that the house steward, who was in charge of the conservation for the house in 2009, knew where every item belonged. While he had never seen any of the spirits haunting East Riddlesden Hall, he said that things in certain rooms had been moved overnight on several occasions, such as an inkwell that had been moved from a table to a sideboard, when no one was in the building overnight. Another spirit haunting East Riddlesden Hall is known as the Blue Lady, who is believed to be a young woman who had been out hunting on horseback around the vast estate sometime in the 18th century. Suddenly, her horse was spooked and bucked back, throwing the woman into the fish pond. Due to the large dresses worn by gentry back then, she didn't stand a chance, and she sank to the bottom. Since then, her ghost has been seen standing on the bank of the pond, or sometimes inside of it, looking down into the murky waters, hoping to find her body. This paranormal entity seems to have been bundled in with the woman in white, who is also said to haunt the hall, who shares the same tragic backstory. It's not just human spirits who have remained at East Riddlesden Hall, with a variety of phantom cats, dogs and even horses being reported over the years. In fact, it is believed the property has two ghost dogs. One is believed to be the dog of the gardener, who sadly passed away around Christmas 2005, making the pooch the most modern addition to the spiritual lineup. According to legend, the other dog is rumoured to be a hellhound, a large black dog with red eyes. According to the law, if someone sees the creature, it means that someone in that person's life, or the person themselves, is going to die soon. One of the staff members once shared that she was vacuuming a carpet one morning when she felt a dog jumping up her leg. She stepped back in surprise, but found no dog. The worker told the gardener of her experience, who now had a new puppy, but he told her that the new dog hadn't been brought to the property for the last 2 or 3 days. Samantha, the staff member sharing the stories about the haunted house, said that East Riddlesden Hall often had school groups visit the building. On one occasion, the catering manager was walking through the house when she came across a young boy wearing a period costume, which happened often during school trips, just standing and staring at her. The woman looked around for the rest of the group, but couldn't see or hear them. She then knelt down and asked the boy if he had gotten lost, but the boy simply continued to stare. She then offered to take the child to find his group, but once again, he said nothing. Getting nowhere, the catering manager went to the office and told the staff that there was a little boy in the building and that she didn't know what was the matter with him. One of the other managers quickly replied that she was unaware that there was a school group in that day. After checking the schedule, she concluded that the boy shouldn't be there. The staff in the office quickly searched the building for the unaccounted child, but he was never found. Other locations at the hall are also said to be haunted, with the spirit of a girl known as Alice, along with her cat, haunting the old barn. Legend claims that the local people thought she was a witch during a time when the paranoia and superstition surrounding the concept of witches and evil magic were spreading like a plague throughout Britain. One day, 2 men dragged the girl to the pond and drowned her until she was on the verge of death, before dragging her into the barn and doing unimaginable things to her before burning Alice and her cat alive. Those who enter the barn say that they get a strange, eerie feeling, like they're not alone. A staff member working at the house heard something that sounded like 2 screams. Once when she walked past the old barn, and the other when she was cleaning inside the Airedale barn, which is used for events like parties. So, are these the disembodied screams of a poor girl who was subjected to torture due to the cruel actions of two superstitious thugs? Those visiting the building and hoping to enjoy a coffee and a scone may be disappointed, not because they have a jam shortage or anything, but because the tea rooms sometimes has an oppressive atmosphere which forces many people to leave the area shortly after entering. The apparition, who is responsible for bumming everyone out, is said to be the spirit of the assassin dishwasher. Man, that sounds like the name of a really crappy supervillain. This entity is believed to be a man who was working as a dishwasher at some point in the hall's 1,400-year history, who hid a dark secret. He was a hired assassin by night. Those working at the hall claim that the dishwasher feeds off negative emotions, and after influencing the moods of people, he generates enough energy to do things. Staff have reported that if fresh flowers are put on table 3, the next day they are dead and wilted. This has happened several times, and lots of the staff have vouched for this. While all he can kill now is a vase of petunias, it's disturbing to think what he could achieve with a ton of negative energy drawn from people. It's just fortunate the assassin dishwasher can't get onto Reddit. Not all spirits in the tea rooms are said to be negative, however. There were the spirits of a mother and her 2 young sons who have been fleetingly sighted sitting at a table. Legend claims that one of the boys accidentally fell into the pond and drowned, with the mother and the sibling coming to East Riddlesden Hall to visit the boy who has failed to move on. Some mornings, staff have found books and stuffed toys, usually kept in a toy box in the area, in places that would make it impossible for them to have simply fallen out. For example, the catering staff were confused to find a grey stuffed bear sitting on a table when the staff swear that it was in the toy box when they locked up the previous night. So clearly there's a lot of ghosts haunting East Riddlesden Hall, but there are a few more worth mentioning. There is the 300-year-old wooden cradle in one of the bedrooms, which has been seen rocking on its own each New Year's Eve. Some say it could be the woman in grey rocking it, maybe an echo of her tending to a child who has been lost to history, just like the identity of the Grey Lady herself. The ghost of a Scottish merchant who was robbed and murdered by a steward is also said to haunt the grounds, looking for his way back home. There is also a phantom coachman who's believed to have been dragged into the lake by his horses and, like the blue or white lady, is seen wandering around the water looking for his lost coach and horses, which plunged to the bottom. What is it with this pond? I feel like if they'd just put a safety rail around the water, this place would barely be haunted. So, the ghost stories of East Riddlesden Hall are certainly interesting, and the building itself has a rich history and looks beautiful. But I am always a little sceptical when the ghosts can't be identified as a specific person, or if the deaths aren't recorded. I find this is often the case when it comes to ghosts named after their description. You know, the woman in black, the hat man, the phantom in the budgie smuggler. Without an identity, what they look like becomes their identity. And then there's the assassin dishwasher, which is so fantastical that it's hard to believe is real, especially as there again isn't a name or specific time frame connected to the man. These unidentified ghosts are said to have died in the 1600s and a little later, and record keeping wasn't so great. Of course, the amount of people who witnessed paranormal activity at East Riddlesden Hall over the centuries is countless, and I don't think every single one can be just dismissed as a trick of the eye or a lie. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I think there are some obvious themes connecting several of these ghost stories, like all of the people that died in the pond, the rocking of the chair or cradle, the visiting merchant who is murdered, and all of the spirits looking for something, such as the Grey Lady seeking her lover, and the coachman and the Blue Lady searching the pond. I think a lot of stories shared by word of mouth for centuries can evolve over time, or the details mixed up, elaborated on, or split into separate entities altogether. I like to think that no matter how many entities there are at East Riddlesden Hall, whether some are just offshoots of other entities that now have a life of their own through storytelling, there has to be a starting point, the genuine original hauntings. Samantha, who shared the ghost stories of the hall, finished her interview by saying she and the rest of the staff felt that most of the spirits are happy and have no problem with their home being open to the public to spare the building from dilapidation. Samantha also said that she has never been afraid of anything at the house, and that she actually finds it reassuring to know that when she is knocking around the gigantic hall, she's never really alone. If you've made it this far through the video, thanks for watching. I do appreciate each and every one of you, especially you guys I get to know in the comments. If you want to check out more true ghost stories, why not hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell? That way you'll never miss a future upload. And until next time, sleep well, friends.